All right, we're here for the review video for the test on chapters 28 and 29 for AP World History. Please watch the video in its entirety, as I will be sharing the thesis statements for the test at the end of the video. Question number 1 talks about the details of the start of World War I. You want to focus on factors that helped start the war, things like nationalism, the weakening of the Ottoman Empire. Remember, the nickname of the Ottoman Empire was the sick man of Europe. Competition of resources, the ally system, the alliance system that was in place. People thought that this war was going to be a good thing because they thought it was going to be short. They wanted revenge for past wrongs that were committed. They were eager to show superiority as well as nationalism. You also need to note things like how railroads served as the main mode of transportation, how the British, the French, and the Russians made up the Triple Entente, Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary made up the Triple Alliance. After the war, the Germans were very upset over the Treaty of Versailles. Question number 2, with trench warfare, you want to look at things like how it was 300 miles of trenches that stretched from the North Sea to Switzerland. Also look at the quality of life in the trenches. It was very low, and the amount of disease spread, things like that. The third question, the United States mainly came into the war because of the German blockade, our trade goods that were being blocked from getting into Europe. It was threatening our economy. Number 4, women and minorities joined the workforce more than ever during World War I. Question number 5, Zionism it was heavily supported by the British. It's this idea of creating a Jewish homeland in Palestine. The Balfour Declaration makes this very clear. Theodore Herzl, spelled Herzl, was the leader of the Zionist movement. Question number 6, describe Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Some of the key some of the themes of the 14 points. This is not all of them in great detail, but it called for German evacuation of occupied lands, autonomy for nationalists under Ottoman rule, or nationalities under the Ottoman rule. It called for the creation of the League of Nations and the inclusion, meaning you want to include local populations in settling territorial disputes. So when the war ends, some of the land's going to get divided, who gets to have say and things like that. Question 7, the switch to communism in Russia. Make sure you note that it was the revolt in 1917 that's going to lead us into a civil war, and the Soviet Union is going to be created in 1922. Lenin is going to lead the government, and he's going to launch his new economic policy, which he has to give some private ownership to help jumpstart the economy. But the long-term vision of the Soviet Union is that they would have an industrialized economy with no private ownership. Question 8 is discussing the global economic depressions that started in Germany and eventually lead to the stock market crash of 1929. The German depression was caused by the reckless spending, the reckless printing of money. The stock market crash in 1929 turned into the deepest and the most widespread depression ever. And it's because the United States had so many global trade partners. Was one of the reasons that they one of the reasons that that this depression was the most widespread. The Russian economy was fine because they had industrialization that was going on, that was forced by the government. It was mandatory. And South Africa was also doing okay because the price of gold was going up. 9 talks about the Boxer Rebellion. This is China tried to rid its country of what they called foreign devils. They failed, and the Western powers in Japan captured Beijing. Question 10 talks about the mandate system. This is colonial rulers administered territories, but are held accountable by the League of Nations. 11, detailed account of the rise of modern Turkey. 1923, Mustafa Kemal turned Turkey into a secular state. He takes the name Ataturk, the father of all Turks. He instituted many reforms, such as adopting the Latin alphabet, no more veils for women, no more polygamy, no more Islamic courts, etc. You can look more at the list that I gave you in class. 12, the new technologies and changes that came about between the years 1900 and 1929. We have automobiles on the rise, airplanes, x-ray machines, motion pictures, films, etc. 13, describe the detail of Stalin's 5-year plan and Stalinist terror. Stalin's 5-year plan stressed the increase in electricity, the increase in industry. Soviets sought to accomplish the plan by using peasants in these factories. During Stalin's terror, this is primarily the 1930s, about 8 million people were sent to the gulags. Not everyone opposed Stalin's plan because it allowed women to enter the workforce. There's some advancements made during this time period. Question 14, Mussolini. Mussolini is a military leader that takes control in World War I of Italy. He put the fascists in power. He liberalized education. He gave employers power over their employees, and he crushed all other political parties. Also note his conquering of Ethiopia, which had never been done before. 14. I just did, so now let's go to 15. Hitler's rise to power, we talked in great detail. I'm just going to highlight some things because we already did this in class. Mein Kampf is the book. Hitler talks about enslaving the Slavic people. Hitler's promises economic growth, and this is going to excite the people in Germany. He also sought to ignore the Treaty of Versailles. He wanted to take over German-speaking territories. He expanded into Poland. He desired to eliminate the Jews, especially from Europe. Most people ignored Hitler early on because they were afraid of war. They were more afraid of the communists. They were gullible. They trusted Hitler, even though he was primarily lying. 16, Mao's communist views as he struggles to gain power in China. Mao's communism relies on peasants, not industrial workers like Russia. Mao encouraged women to organize. He banned arranged marriages. He banned foot binding. He allowed divorce. So Mao is, seen as a champion in some aspects because he increases the rights of women in China. 17, the Japanese staged a bombing of a train as an excuse to invade Manchuria, the Manchurian part of China. And the Japanese also invaded Southeast Asia for resources like oil and rubber. 18, the Battle of Britain was an air raid. The Battle of Midway was all about aircraft carriers. 19, the war in Europe ended quickly after Hitler's suicide. The war in Asia took longer to end because the Allies had been so focused on Europe and the Japanese resistance to surrendering. And lastly, 20, some key changes, technological advancements, things like synthetic rubber, antibiotics, nuclear weapons, the radar, just some of the technological advancements that are made. The United States of America is thriving after World War II, and U.S. women and minorities joined the workforce. And the last thing to mention is that we're destroying the environment more than ever because there's this desire for raw materials. For your thesis statements, you can choose one of the following two: continuity and changes over time. Describe the continuities and changes over time in Germany. Again, you can talk about political, economic, social continuities and changes over time in Germany from the years 1914 to 1945, or you can write about the continuities and changes over time. Same thing, political, economic, social, culture in Russia, 1900 to 1929. The two comparative essays, choose one of the following. Compare the Depression in the United States of America to either what was going on with the European Depression or the Soviet Union during that time period. So compare the U.S. Depression to either the Soviet Union or the Depression in Europe. And the other comparative essay that you could choose, compare communism in the Soviet Union to communism in China. This is the creation, the establishment, what it relied on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty wide open there. So hope to see you all tomorrow, Saturday, for the AP mock exam. And that's all I have for you. Test is next week. My students will take it on Monday and Tuesday.